What's up, everybody? Jason from Jason's Exotic Reptiles. Today we're going to talk about why so many people quit breeding reptiles. Today, it seems like everybody wants to breed reptiles. They're coming in from all angles. But the truth is that a lot of them don't last, and most of them don't last up until they even get a chance to breed. We're going to talk about why that is today. Before we dive into the topic, let's show off this beautiful adult male Dumeril's boa. So this guy is a 2014, so he's actually 11 years old right now. He's amazing boa. He's been my breeder for a long time. And as you can see, he's probably about 5 feet long, maybe a little bit over 5 feet, real heavy-bodied. Dumeril's boas in general do better on the ground, but they also do really well climbing. A lot of people think that the Dumeril's ground boa from Madagascar is something that likes to sit on the ground all the time. Actually, as babies, they tend to be higher up in some of the trees in the canopy. They do actually go bury themselves in the ground, especially as they become heavier bodied, but they actually spend quite a bit of time up in the trees and in the canopy. Diving into the actual topic of why so many people quit breeding reptiles or never even make it to reptile breeding is I've narrowed it down to some key factors. And the first one I do believe is the financial strain. Is over time they accumulate reptiles and they learn that the cost of feeders have gone up, the cost of caging starts to get expensive, and it becomes this financial burden that they just don't see the end with. They don't stick in it long enough to actually recognize that there's a profit at the end that will at least recoup their costs from caging, from the animals, from the feeders, and this is something that can pay for itself. But that financial strain, just getting to that breeding point, is very difficult to get there, and many people try to skip it by buying adults. However, that usually sets them up for failure. Then the cages are more expensive, the feeders are more expensive, but overall that financial strain, I think, is one of the key factors that gets a lot of people out. Another key factor for a lot of people is the time commitment. This is a daily routine, so you have to be in there daily or at least multiple times a week, cleaning the cages, changing the waters, feeding the animals. Now, certain species like snakes, they are less hands-on, but that time commitment absolutely does wear you down as the days go on, the months go by, the years go by, before you actually even make a reptile. And that's very challenging to stay motivated and keep going. In addition, you may have some life changes where when you got the animals, it was perfect, you had plenty of time, but over the course of your keeping, whether it be months, years, decades, you want to change life. You might have kids, you might want to travel places. And finding somebody to manage the reptiles as you're going on a 2-week vacation maybe, or even a week-long vacation, can be stressful. And a lot of people decide that, hey, I don't want the stress and the burden of having to take care of something when I'm away. Unlike a dog or a cat, you really can't just take your animals and board them. You need to find somebody who's ready to come to your house or wherever you're keeping them, take care of them while you're away. Now, the nice thing about snakes is usually you can go a week, maybe a little bit over. They're going to be totally fine with the water, the cage. Make sure you clean them, keep them on empty bellies before you go, and you're going to be in good shape when you get back. But if you start getting things like lizards, bearded dragons, or even monitors, you're going to have somebody go over there, clean their cages, clean their water bowls almost every other day, if not every day, which becomes very challenging, and a lot of people get out for that reason. Now, for the established breeders, a key factor is going to be that emotional burnout. You've been planning this in your head for 3-4 years, or if you've actually had multiple years of successful breeding, then maybe it's decades, but now you start getting slugs and stillborns and you have babies that don't sell, and that can really start to wear you down, as in addition to the animals you were caring for, now you're caring for 50 to 100 plus babies, and it starts to really break you down as that, man, these animals aren't selling, or they're not selling as fast as I thought, or they're not selling for as much as I thought they would. That is where I think a lot of more established breeders, are people who have had breeding success, start to get a little bit tired and burnt out, and they decide that it's time to either slim down or get out of reptile breeding altogether. Is they thought there was going to be this easy path to financial freedom. I'm going to just breed reptiles for a living, and this is going to be the best thing ever. I'll quit my day job. But in reality, it's very challenging to sell babies, going to shows to sell them, taking pictures, posting online, doing all this effort, and nothing sells. That could be very mentally tolling on you, and physically tolling in the same time, where stuff, all this work, and you thought you're excited about it, you'd hope other people are excited, and they're just ultimately not, and they don't purchase from you, especially when you see them purchasing from people around you. You're at a reptile show, the table next to you sells things, the table on this side sells things, table behind you in front of you sells things, but you didn't sell anything. And over time, when you go to a few shows like that, it can absolutely wear you out, get you pretty discouraged. Another key factor with this is the market reality. Now, trends are always changing. The people's interests are shifting. The prices are going up and down, usually down. And what you thought you were going to make, similar to what my last talking point was of that emotional stress, what you thought you were going to make, what you thought you were going to sell, what you thought people were interested in is not actually what they're buying, purchasing, not the price you're expecting. And that can really start to give you also that mental and physical challenge of, do I keep going with this, or it's just the market just not there and it's time for me to get out? I promise you there's a market, but a lot of the times there's key factors that these folks who are getting out of reptiles are not capturing. They're not really tapping into that. And that's going to be absolutely critical to success in reptile breeding and keeping, more specifically breeding. But if you're trying to make animals, whether it be at the hobby level or the business level, there's a whole bunch of other things that need to align in order to make a marketable, sellable animal. So all of this can really drain down, and ultimately people just get tired and say, hey, I'm out. This wasn't the business I thought it was. To summarize all of this in maybe one sentence, if I could, is that reptile breeding is challenging and it is a business. If you don't treat it like a business with a business plan and a full 5, 10, 15-year perspective, this is something you're probably going to get out of. I always encourage people to think about the future, think about what you're breeding right from the start, but also have that right from the start picture be something that's played out over 10, 15, 20 years plus. This is a long-term game. It's not short-term. There's no short-term flips, short-term money. This is something you have to plan into the future. If you do that, you're going to have a very successful reptile breeding career and experience. And I encourage everybody who has that mindset that breeding is something that you can make very viable. You can quit your day job. You can put this into different asset classes as we've covered in other videos. So with that, I hope you guys appreciate this video. Let's keep it moving.